how to express yourself very clearly so people actually listen to you. And here is something that might sound a little harsh, but I say it in almost every workshop of mine when I do conduct. And your idea is as good as you think it is. Not because the idea is bad, but because if you cannot express it clearly, nobody will ever know what actually good quality in you. To everyone listening, it simply doesn't exist. And if you leave this video right now, there is a very rare chance that you will keep making the same mistake that causes smart professionals to be overlooked in meetings, ignored during discussions, and passed over for opportunities they absolutely deserve. I once worked with a participant and who was incredibly sharp, honestly, one of the smartest people in the room. And his knowledge was outstanding, his thinking was excellent, but every time he spoke in meetings, something strange happened. And by the time he finished explaining his idea, people had already moved on because it took him 5 minutes to say what could have been said in 20 seconds. And I have trained corporate teams for years as ICF certified coach, TEDx speaker, author of 2 books, and I have worked with more than 1 lakh professionals across India. And many of my students are now working with Amazon, Deloitte, Google, Microsoft, and other top-notch organizations. And I can tell you this with complete confidence. Clarity is one of the requested skills I am asked to teach. So if you have ever felt unheard somewhere in a meeting, if you have ever walked away thinking that's why what I meant to say here means, then this video is for you. And if you want to grow your communication skills with your confidence level step by step, subscribe the channel right now so you don't miss the rest of my series here. So let's start with something very important, and this is about your clear expression is not about talking more. It's about saying the right thing at the right place at the right time in a correct order. And most people assume good communication are actually the gifted one, and the speakers are not so. So in reality, most strong communication have simply learned how to structure their thoughts and ideas, what they feel to express. And that's the difference here. And if you have ever walked out of a meeting thinking that came out completely wrong, I want you to hear this carefully. That's not a flaws in you. It's a missing skill, and skills can be learned, can be built. And today I'm going to give a simple structure that can immediately make your communication sharper, clear, and easier so that people can understand you better and you can understand them well. So because once you learn the structure, everything starts changing because you know the basic structure. But before we get to that structure, you need to understand why clarity matters. Let me tell you about 2 people I worked with on the same project team. One person knew the subject inside out, and he was technically brilliant, very sharp, but every explanation he took so long time to express. Whereas the other speaker, the other participant, he was very clear with the purpose and he was updated with what to be said, and every recommendation, whatever his expression, was easily understandable. So who do you think leadership asked to present? Of course, the second one, because he was very clear with his thought, what to be spoken and what not to be. So because people trusted what they could understand, and this is something many professionals learn too late. So clarity is not a communication style, it is a professional skill. And that skill directly influences how far you will be with your career. People cannot support ideas they don't understand, they cannot act on instruction they can't follow, and they cannot recognize expertise that never become clear. Write this down just right now. Being understood is often more valuable than being impressive, and once you understand that, the next question becomes obvious. Why do so many intelligent people struggle with this? So, what is the reason behind? So, let's look into it. The first reason is very simple, and most people think while speaking instead of thinking before speaking, and their mouth starts moving before their thoughts are organized. The second reason is that they try to say everything at one go. Every detail, every possibility, every explanation, and every piece of information they put up all together. And suddenly the listener gets lost. Because if you dump everything at a single time, it becomes very haphazard to understand. The third reason is one that surprises many of you. Why? Because you focus too much on how you sound and not enough what the listener needs to. You are thinking that, do I sound smart? Do I sound confident? Am I speaking very correctly? And meanwhile, the listener is wondering, what is the point? What do you want me to understand? And what do you want me to do? So it has very vague picture in the listener's mind. And I know some of you are thinking right now, what? But Dr. Sangeeta, I process out loud and that's how my brain works. Okay, in casual conversation that is perfectly fine, the whatever your expression, but at professional setup, that process needs to happen before you speak, before you express. So your listener does not need to hear your entire journey, what you think in your mind. They need the destination. And here is a tip I want you to remember. And the listener does not need to hear each and everything what you know. They need to understand the one thing that matter most for that person. And once you understand that, the next step becomes easier for you. So let's go. Whenever you are speaking in a meeting, giving an update, making any recommendation, or even have a difficult conversation, so your communication should be very simple and contains 4 things. So what are those 4 things? The first is lead with your main point. Never bury it. And don't make people search for your message. Give it to them very immediately. And the second one is provide one clear reason for one useful example, not 5 or 6, because example speaks more than what you want to convey. Just one strong supporting point is very valuable. And the third is tell your listener what you need from them. Do you need approval, a decision, or any feedback, or any alignment with the thought process, or what else? Make it very clear so that your listener should be very sharp and clear with what you want to convey the message. And the last 4th one is stop talking once you have met your point. And this is where many people struggle. They keep speaking because silence feels uncomfortable. So it's okay if you're taking a pause in between, but clarity often lives in brevity. That how you are brief with your information. And let me show you exactly what this sound like in a practice. Let's understand with a sample example. I think we should move the deadline by 2 days because the testing phase is not complete? Can we confirm this by end of the day or next day? That's it. And this is what the simple dialogue. Clear, direct, actionable. One clear point delivered well beats 5 points delivered poorly. And now let me show you this framework that makes this entire process of your listening skill almost automatic. So what is this? So very simple framework is point, reason and ask. If you remember only one thing from today's video, so remember this: point, reason and your ask. So these 3 points are very important and that's it. So whenever you are speaking, start with this point, then explain the reason and then make them to ask. So let's break it down. The point is your main message, what you want to convey. The reason explains why it matters for them, and the ask tells people what happens next. So point, reason and ask, very simple, practical and incredibly effective. I remember a participant from one of my corporate workshops who started using this framework very immediately. A few weeks later, she sent me a message. Her manager had commented that her updates had become much sharper and easier to act on. So think about that. What? Same person, same intelligence and same workload. And the only thing that changes was the structure. And that is very powerful and it brings the clarity. Before you speak, ask yourself one question. What is the one thing I need the person to understand? So start here. Everything else becomes easier for you. But knowing a framework is one thing. Using it naturally is another. So let's talk about the practice. How will you do this? And the biggest mistake people is waiting for an important meeting before trying to communicate very clearly. Don't do that. Practice in everyday conversation. Before any important discussion, write your main point in one sentence. Just one sentence, not a paragraph, not a full page write-up. And one sentence can bring that clarity. The more you practice this structure in low pressure situations, the more naturally it will appear when the stakes are high. And that's what, when people start noticing a difference, not because you have become louder, not because you have become more aggressive, but because you have become easier to understand. And that's where real influence begins. Let me share something very personal. Early in my career, I used to over explain everything. Yes, this is a fact. And I genuinely believed that more words meant more value. So I would keep adding details, more examples, more context, more explanation, and one day my mentor gave me a feedback that honestly stung in my mind. And he said, "You are making people work harder to understand you, not easier." So that sentence stayed with me because he was right and I was not helping people to understand me better. So I was overwhelming them. Maybe you have done that too. So maybe you have left conversation feeling frustrated because people didn't understand what you were trying to say. And if that's you, please don't judge yourself. And this is not a personality problem, it is a skill problem. And skills can be improvised, can be earned, can be learned. And the most powerful communicators are not the one who say the most, they are the ones who say exactly what needs to be said. So here is the biggest takeaway from today's video. What? Clear communication is not having more to say, it is about making it easier for others to understand what matters, exactly what message you want to convey. Because when you learn to express yourself clearly, then people stop just listening to you, they start looking at you for the answers. And I would love to hear from you. What is one situation where you walked away wishing you had said something differently, and let me know in the comments here. And if you found this helpful, subscribe to the channel. Clarity is a skill you will use in every conversation for the rest of your life. And I don't want you to miss the next piece of something very insightful. That's all for the day, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you.